Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Christy Whitman. She is a transformational leader, two-time New York Times bestselling author, intuitive energy healer, and renowned channel for the council. With over 25 years of experience guiding personal transformation, she blends energy mastery, which is amazing, intuitive healing, and channeled wisdom to help you clear blocks and manifest a life of alignment and connection. Her teachings empower spiritual seekers, coaches, entrepreneurs, and high achievers to create lives filled with effortless abundance, authentic joy, and meaningful momentum. Her newest book, The Flow Factor: How to Master Your Energy and Enter a State of Flow, offers practical tools for moving out of overwhelm and survival mode, which everyone feels like they're in right now, and into alignment with the natural flow of universal energy so life can feel more easeful, abundant, and inspired. Today, we're going to explore what it truly means to master your energy, release resistance, and step into a state of flow where life begins working with you instead of against you. Christy, welcome to Spiritual Spotlight series.
Hi, Rachel. We were already having fun and giggling, so I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I'm so excited. That's probably like the longest intro I've ever done just because you have so many amazing things and that's all cool. So, Christy,
Thank you.
you have spent more than 25 years helping people transform their lives through energy mastery. What first led you onto the spiritual path? We're going to jump right
Well,
in.
yeah, I love it. No, my own spiritual journey began, everybody's spiritual journey begins when they're in the womb, right? But my conscious spiritual journey began when I started going to see a therapist because I was in my mid 20s and I had realized that I had checked the box on all the things that I wanted to achieve. And that really, instead of being like, woo, I did it, it was more of like oh my God, like, is that all there is? Because I thought that you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job, you make some money, get a guy, and I was check, 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 check. And I was in the middle of my engagement, and my girlfriend that's known me most of my life said, I've never seen you more miserable. You're
Wow.
supposed to be the happiest time in your life. So I started seeing a therapist. And my sister, who was 11 years older than me, saw a therapist, but I just never had done it myself. And so that was really the biggest awakening. But I still felt like there was something missing. I was like, there's still something I'm seeking. It feels like there's something bigger out there, but I just can't seem to get my hands on it. And with that kind of, some might say it's a thirst, some might say call it a hunger. With that, I through therapy and awareness, I broke off my engagement.
Wow.
I actually met another guy that lived in California, and I was living in Chicago at the time. So I asked for a lateral move in my company to move to California. Within a month of living in California, I found out that the guy that I moved there for was basically with another woman the whole time. And and here's the funny part, because I used to date the bad boys, and like the stories I have, like, how could you not think you would get caught? Like, when I was moving there, I needed to find a place to stay, so I was wanted to rent a room in a house, or get an apartment. I was like, I don't know where I don't no idea anything about Northern California. And so he was like, why don't you move in with so and so? She's got an extra room, blah, blah, blah. To find out so and so is the one. I'm like, how were you going to do that? Were you just going to hop from room to room and kind of make it more convenient for yourself? Like, I'm tired of you. I'm just going to go with you tonight. Like, what were you thinking? Like, what are you
We're
thinking?
not polygamists. Thank you.
I'm like, what? So immediately broke up with him. So I found myself in Northern California. And one person that I met through him, through that month that I was with him, happened to be a hairdresser. And when I met her a couple times, I really connected with her. And
Yeah.
so I made an appointment at her salon, and I'm sitting there getting my hair cut, and we're chatting. And there was something about her that I had never experienced within her before or anybody else. And
Wow.
yeah, and so I just, being as bold as I am, I said, what do you do, Janine? And she just started laughing. She goes, I meditate. Now, Rachel, this is in the 90s, right?
Mm.
And I was raised very traditional Italian American Catholic family. I never met anybody that meditated. I never knew
Wow.
anybody that meditated. It wasn't like we had the internet then,
True. True.
so for me, when she's like, I meditate, it was like this really hip, cool chick from San Ramon, California that was married, had a dog. And my idea of someone that meditated was some guru guy sitting with a beard and, in yogi style, oming on the top of a cliff somewhere. So it was like paradigm shift. You know, wait,
Yeah.
you meditate? Tell me more. By the time I got done with my haircut, I was like, okay, I need your meditation teacher's phone number. I had
Yes.
no idea what I was getting into. No idea. So I call her, leave a message. She's not calling me back. I'm, being consistent because I want what Janine has, right? I always say that I feel like that movie when Harry met Sally and they're in the deli, right? And she's
Yes.
faking an orgasm and the woman
Yes.
goes, I'll have what she's having.
Yes.
That's
I
how I
love that.
felt. I'm like, I'll have what she's having, right? So I was determined, persistent. Finally, Melanie, the meditation teacher, calls me back, and she was not a meditation teacher. She was a psychic. She was a channel. She was just this
Oh.
amazingly guided, person. And so I went and I had my first session with her, and
Yes.
it was at
Yeah.
her house. And I walk in. Now, again, this is not my world at this point in time. I walk in, she's got new age clinky clinky music, candles, with incense. She's got the angel statues. I'm like walking into this very like, whoa, it's kind of a little like I'm waiting for the crystal ball, like where,
I know.
I'm like, where am I? What is this place? And she invites me to sit down on a cushion in her living room, not on a
Right.
couch, not on a chair, on a cushion. So I'm sitting there on the floor, and this huge black cat named Steve, or he wasn't black, he was brown, but this huge fat cat named Steve, he was huge. I've never seen a cat so big. And he just came up and he was just, rubbing up against me. And so I'm all busy with Steve and loving on him. And I happen to
Aw.
look up, and she like stares right into my soul and she says, "You create your own reality."
Amen.
Like something
Amen.
open up in me. Again, this was not secret, hadn't been like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? The books that talk about this was like stuck at the secret compartments of, those kind of books, or
Right.
in those spiritual bookstores, right?
Right.
So when she said that to me, it was like, I do create my own reality. I knew that. I never heard that before. I never, in my Christy mind, ever had that as my reality, but something opened up in me and I was like, yeah, that is true. I felt that as absolute truth. But then my mind kicked in and went, well, how? How do I do that? How do I
So true.
create my reality? Right. And then my journey began. That question, well, how? So here I am, 5 years after that. And, fast forward, I had my very first book download through me in the middle of the night because I had been meditating for many, many years, and was seeing and having visions and getting more connected because that's what meditation
Mhm.
does. And saw a vision of this book, and it had the cover on it. I could see exactly the artwork, everything. And I went to bed that night after my meditation and was woken up at 1:05 in the morning with this voice. And it was advice that I needed. And it was also, I was clear it wasn't my voice. And so I got up and I just started writing, and something really amazing happened that night. My hand just started becoming totally not mine. Like one hand was turning the page while the other one was just scribbling and
Right.
scribing and writing. And, I couldn't even like pay attention to what was being, it was just, I'm like, all right, whatever. It was like, I felt like my hands were being taken over,
I love
right?
it.
Right. And so what happened was I woke up in the morning and I saw my notes out and I started reading it and I'm like, whoa, this is like exactly what I needed to hear. And then this happened 7 nights in a row. So I was like, I think I'm writing a book, and I had just met an author, Terry Cole Whitaker, back in the day. She was one of the leading ministers and teachers of New Age, New Thought.
Yeah.
And she had many books on the New York Times list. One that's a really great book is uh, what you think of me is none of my business.
Ooh, I
Great,
like that title.
great book.
Oh,
Great book. What you think of me is none of my business by
so
Terry Cole
true.
Whitaker. So
So
good.
true.
Life changing. That's so I read her book because she had just come to the church that I was, it was a Reading religious science church, and she was speaking, and she had so much passion. And I was thinking to myself, geez, like, where does she get her passion from? Because I don't feel that passionate. I'm not passionate like that in life. I want that,
Yeah.
another level of, I want what she's having, right? Is like another moment of, that's what
Right.
I want. Oh, that's what I
Right.
want. That's what I want, right? And it's almost like a little childlike, and almost that innocence of a kid, will just go, ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that, and to feel free to go, oh, that'd be fun. Let's do that. Let's go there. Let's try that. To be able to be, that's how I was. I felt like it was in this whole brand new world that I was opening up to. And so just shortly after that, that's where the book came through, and I reached out to her and I said, I think I'm writing a book. She told me what to do to get it, to get it published. I started
Wow.
speaking in spiritual bookstores and churches, and that's where this 25-year journey, and now 7 years, 7 books, physical books later,
Right.
eight in total, coaching, multinational, multi-million-dollar coaching academy that
Right.
trained over 3,000 coaches. And, all from that, following the guidance and leaning
Right.
in. And that's where it's like, all of it has been led because I look at where are my limitations, and where can, even in a situation, where am I
Mhm.
limited in this, and how can I change this into more of alignment, more into flow, more of a different maybe
Yeah.
perspective. And that's what I've been doing, leaning in, and here we are.
I find that amazing because it's like, I know that we're going to be talking about the flow factor, but it's like, this seems like when you were personally out of your flow, you leaned into your path and you're able to get back in alignment and really follow the breadcrumbs of divine.
Yes.
And it's for me, that's like very inspirational. It's like, wow, that's like action and work, like putting you have to have aligned action. I think we get stuck in, where we don't go into action. And I love that you've really been in an aligned action your entire spiritual path. Like that's
Oh, well,
so
it's
cool.
it's had its moments where I was
Of
out of
course.
out of alignment, or like what I talk about in the flow factor is that, it doesn't matter who we are. Anyone
So
that is
true.
alive on planet Earth experiences contrast. Contrast meaning things we don't want, right? It's not all
Amen.
bad, right? But it's
Right.
not all bad. It's
No,
not
100% agree with you.
all
Yeah.
good either,
Yeah.
right? It's polarity. It's one of the universal laws I've been teaching for over 25 years. It's, if there's up, there's down, there's in, there's out, there's hot, there's cold, there's love, there's fear, lack, abundance, right? There's the polar opposites. It's like upstairs,
Yeah.
downstairs. You have the polar opposites. And what we have to understand is, in our mental awareness, like, and in our life, if I'm focusing and pushing against something that I don't like or don't want, I'm actually attracting more of that into my life. So
So true.
even though I'm saying I want that, but I'm pushing against not having it, like, most of my attention and focus is not on that. It's like, well, I keep saying I want money, but I'm fearing money, not having money. And that's the vibration that's going out. And
Yeah.
so, to understand that we create from our consciousness, and our consciousness is broken down into 5 things: our words that we say, the thoughts that we think, the perspectives, beliefs that we hold, the
Right.
emotions that we process or don't, and the actions that we take. And
Right.
that day with Melanie, when I said, well, how do I create my own reality? She started with our thoughts, right? And
Mm.
and she said, well, your thoughts, you're either attracting things to you or repelling things from you based on the way you think. And that was another, like, the way I think. I mean, I thought my thoughts were real. You mean I can change my thoughts? Mean that my thoughts they're not set in stone? And that was one of the things that Melanie told me to do. Is she goes, I could see, like, your mind is, she goes, so I want you to go home. It was like, you're new here, right? It's like, okay, we need to start at the kindergarten, preschool level with you, right? Your thoughts are not who you are. Your thoughts are not real. Like, you are the observer of your thoughts. That was like a
Right.
whole, like, what? I'm an observer of my thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. She goes, go home and pay attention for about a week. Listen to your own thoughts. Rachel, I was so mean. Like I
It's
would
fascinating when you start tapping in and really witnessing what you're doing.
seriously. I mean, I had just cut down after cut down. I mean, I had more critical thoughts than I could process the critical thoughts. Like I
Wow.
remember walking by there was a mirror in the bedroom that a room that I was renting in this house, and it was one of those like '90s mirrors where it had or closet doors, right? Where it
Yeah.
was like they're all mirrors, and I walked by it, and I said something about my hair, my skin, my weight, my height, in just a nanosecond, and I paid such close attention that it was all just negative, negative, negative. No, nothing was positive.
Wow.
And what's interesting is I called my girlfriend Dawn, who was the one that said, "Okay, you're supposed to be happy now, and you're not." So,
Right. Tap in.
I called her and I'm like, you know what? I just realized I am such a negative person. And she
Mm,
goes, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You're one of the most happy, bubbly, positive people I know." And that's what even twisted me even more. I'm like, to other people, and that's what
right.
really prompted The Perfect Pictures, my first book, is that to other people, what I projected, and this is what I learned in my family unit, what I projected is everything's perfect, but not so
Mm,
much inside. It's hell inside because this person, she got, or this thought, this mind has some pretty negative thoughts about myself. I might
right.
tell you how great you look, but I'm going, but you're not as good as comparing,
Right.
you know what I mean? Cutting
And
down judgment,
yeah, absolutely. I
all
do
of
want to talk about your book. It's fascinating when for anyone that's on a spiritual path and you start, it doesn't even, you don't even have to be on a spiritual path. For anyone that just starts paying attention to your thoughts, your feelings, and really just looking within, it's amazing how much your life shifts energetically and things that come in, and it's fascinating. And I've been on the path a long time myself, and I find myself still. I think even on your website you have like a free you have a free gift that's amazing. Oh, what's the free gift on your website? I'm so
what,
sorry.
yeah, watch your words because
Yes.
yeah.
I'm like, sign me up because that's something that I'm always like, don't say like this, move into this and command like your energy and just yes, get that free gift, everyone.
Well, I'll just
Because I'm like,
let me speak to
go
that
ahead.
really quick
Yes.
because when Melanie said to me, remember I said there's five things
Yeah.
that are create from our own consciousness. It's
Right.
not what they do or what they have or changing anybody else. How I create my consciousness is the words that I speak, the thoughts that I
Right.
think, the perspective I hold, the pictures, images, the
Mm,
feelings that I either shut down or that I process, and the actions, behaviors I take,
right.
right?
Right.
That's it. And so when Melanie was like, "Will you create your reality through your thoughts?" Right? It's like, yes, that's true, but we got to back up a little bit because in the beginning there was the word, right? And it's like
Right.
everything starts, everything is sparked by the words that we choose. And there are some words and phrases that we say collectively that are, I mean, I hear people say all the time and they don't even realize what they're doing. I'm just going to give you an example. When you're excited about an event, a party, seeing somebody, most people say, what? "I can't wait." Right? "Oh my God, I
Yes.
can't. Oh my God, I can't wait." Right? I mean, I can't wait.
Right.
Well, when you really
Right.
break it down, can't is one of those words that we absolutely
Right.
want to eliminate from our vocabulary. As a matter of fact, it's one of the videos and lessons. Can't just in and of itself. Let me ask you, Rachel, do you like to wait?
No.
Nobody
No,
likes to
ma'am.
wait. No,
No.
but no, not one human. I love to wait. Waiting is, even Tom Petty sang a song about it. The waiting is the hardest part, right? Nobody likes to wait. Even if you're manifesting something, right? You're dreaming about the man. Waiting is the part that sucks. You
Right.
know, it's like that's the hard part, right? So I can't wait. It invokes right there a feeling
Right.
of this moment's not enough, and I
It's
can't.
diminishing your present moment. Wow.
Yeah. So instead, in these videos, each video tells you what not to say, why, and
Right.
what to say instead. And they're interactive, so we're chatting with each other. But
Right.
going from I can't wait to I look forward to, like, try that on.
What a nice shifted energy. Because
Yeah,
it also doesn't take away the, yeah, I like that. Because it's like, yeah, I look forward to.
yeah.
I like it. I
So
like
it's
it.
those little shifts that, change the words, change the thoughts, change the pictures and the images, change the emotions that we
Right.
feel, and then change the actions that we take. It all starts with our words. So it's watchyourwords.com. You can go there for the free gift.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
I can't wait to, I'm so excited. I'm like,
So you're looking forward to.
no,
See?
yeah, you just told me. You just said this. I'm looking
See?
forward to signing up for this
See, it's
today.
so common.
It's so
My,
easy. You just
it's
called me out like that. I
so
love it.
easy. Yeah,
I'm
that's my
looking
job.
forward to. I'm
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
forward to. I love it.
my mom still to this day will say should. I don't know how she does it, but she could put 10 shoulds in a sentence. Should. And it's like, stop. It's so I got to be a certain way other than I am. You should or
Right.
shouldn't. I should have. All of that. Those are one of those video words too,
Right.
because
Right.
it feels so constrictive. It's like I'm in a box. That's where the drama triangle and lack and all that come from. And one of those key words is should.
Oh, it's so true. I know with because you're also an energetic healer. You know the shoulds and where they stay in your body. The shoulds of the past, the shoulds of the future, and it's like, okay, gotta let go of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Just be
Yes.
in the present
Yeah.
moment of now. So
Exactly. Yeah.
it's hard because you just showed me in less than a minute how easy it is to shift back to that word choice. So, and it has to be a conscious decision to change your vocabulary. So
Yeah.
that's a good lesson for me. Thank you.
You're
So,
welcome. You're gonna be
so
like, you know what happens to me in those moments? Every time I would say should, I'd feel like I got zapped. And
I know
it was
I'm
like,
the same way.
so wait, no, I'm looking forward to, right?
I'm
So,
looking forward to. I'm going to be like, I know it's so funny. My
PTSD.
I'm like, thank you, Christy. I will be
You're
getting a
welcome.
counselor for this session. No, I'm just kidding.
Anytime.
Um, so it reminds me of a story about my son. This is so off topic, but he is learning the violin, and he said, if I don't practice, I want you to tase me. I'm not going to tase you. He's 16. I'm not going to tase you. That's inappropriate. But now I'm going to think that every time I say this, I'm going to be like, tase me to say the right thing.
Oh, that's funny. That's
like,
awesome.
so your newest book, The Flow Factor, what exactly does flow mean from an energetic and spiritual perspective?
Well, see, there's a understanding that we have from other books and other ways that we think about flow. A lot of times people think, oh, I'm in the zone. We think of like an
Mm,
athlete that is just so
yeah.
in the zone, right?
So,
Right? They're like, ah.
yeah.
And they nothing could touch them. They're just on
Right.
fire, like that kind of thing. So that's one small aspect of flow. There's other aspects where the action, where it could be something like a artist, has a download song, or an art
Mm.
author
Or
has a
your book.
book,
Yeah.
right? Like these are moments of flow. It could be something very ordinary in your life where you're driving down the road and it's all green lights.
So true.
That feels like flow. The other day I was like, stop light. And then we went a little bit of stop light. And I'm like, we're not in the flow of the lights, right? It's like, but it's such a day to day, like, what it's like to get every light. You're like,
So
geez,
true.
I gotta pray to the light gods here, right? That kind of a feeling where you're just so in it, right? It's like,
Right.
you're in the flow. So that's what it looks like as an actionable thing in the third dimension. But flow is actually energy, and everything in this universe is energy. And the way that energy moves is with flow. So
Right.
the Cliff Note version of energetic flow is that flow feels good. And we feel good while we're in the flow. If it feels like it's too much flow and it feels overwhelming, then we're the factor. And
Right.
that's why it's called the flow factor. And because the flow exists, but we're the factor, right? And the factor
Right.
is, are we letting it in? Are we resisting it? Are
Mm.
we bringing in too much? Are we feeling like we're taking on too much? So flow is pure positive energy. It's in constant movement. It's deathless, birthless. It's constantly changing and at the same time unchangeable. It's like it's divine is what flow is. It's
Yeah.
being in alignment with the divine. And when we humans feel bad, anywhere from boredom to like just desperation,
Hmm.
we are in a human condition. We're in the polarity of emotions where our soul or flow doesn't meet us there because we turned
Right.
our back on our soul or divine or, energy flow. So the way back into flow is having compassion, bringing in the idea of compassion, which compassion is, it's a soothing type of energy. It's like, ooh, I'm
It is.
cold, and someone hands me a blanket, right? Or I'm
Yeah.
kind of, sitting outside watching a soccer game and my husband could come over with a hot chocolate and I'm like, if it's cold outside, right? Or
Right. It feels
getting,
cozy.
yeah, it's like getting into bed, right? I got my pillow, I got my comfort, I got my bed, I got my honey next to me. It's like, like that level of I can relax, I can let go, I'm good, right? Because there are actually three different states of being. The first one being where survival mode comes in, where
Mm.
that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, drama, triangle, chaos, struggles. This is a human thing, and this is coming from this perspective of lack. Lack always feels bad. The
Right.
second range of emotions or vibrational range is of neutrality or satisfaction. This is based on one of the universal laws I coach and teach on, which is the law of sufficiency and abundance. So the second bucket, if you will, is that's where we have neutrality. That's where we have that satisfaction, peace, calm, right? Where we could go, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. All this, it's okay. I'm going to be okay. Even that, and bringing in that soothing compassion, right? That opens the doorway to the third bucket, which is abundance. And that's where all those like excitement and fun and joy and passion and purpose and love and support and, abundance and well-being, all of that good stuff, all the good juicy stuff that we
Right.
want to experience, that exists. That flow is there for us. So now we're the factor. Is my attention and focus, because remember those five things, am I
Right.
using words that is going like should, that goes into that lack bucket, right? If I say that, I'm out of the flow of feeling good because what I should on myself or others, I said should, sounds like I said something else, but when I should on someone else or even myself, I'm out of the flow. But the minute I bring myself back into that compassion, there's three ways of doing that. I say bring in just the awareness of compassion, like just imagining downpouring of like a waterfall of light pouring down on you, like pink light, just letting yourself just feel this beautiful light, almost just this soothing energy. And you just invite this in with your imagination, with visualizing this. And then wrap your arms, take your arms and wrap them around yourself and give yourself a hug. Let yourself just do that, and for about 90 seconds. This actually helps you in so many different ways. Our limbic system relaxes, our nervous system relaxes. Oxytocin is created in our system. I mean, it's just hugging ourselves is just so powerful. And then the third, while you're hugging yourself, is tell yourself words of affirmation. You're okay. I'm all right. We got this. Things always turn out for us. Things things always turn out for us. All is well. Whatever you want to say, rub your arms, whatever it is. But those three practices, and I cannot tell you how many times I've been on a podcast. So thank you, Rachel. I cannot tell you how many times I've been on a podcast and I'm like, so hug yourself. Go ahead and hug yourself. The person is just looking at me. I'm like, hug yourself. Like,
I did.
I know you did, but I know you did. But some of the hosts will just look at me. I'm like, no, you do it too, because like
No, it's a
it
powerful like nervous
is,
system reset,
it
and it
is,
brings me, because I'm also a nurse, so it reminds me of like, okay, I'm tapping into my serotonin, my dopamine, my, yeah, it's this is
yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Bring it back to basics.
exactly. Just give yourself a hug,
I'm
you
going to be
know?
doing this tomorrow at work. I just want you to know.
I do it all the time. If I'm talking to my son and he's like dot dot, saying, I'll wrap my arm around myself
Just
even
like
if I'm
this.
driving.
I could see myself. I'll be like, I am looking forward to hugging myself. And
Look at you. That's so good.
so, why do you feel that so many people feel like life is a constant struggle instead of something that flows naturally?
Well, because that's what we've learned and that's what has been imprinted. And here's the thing that is really leading edge about this book and the processes that are in this book, and really the conversation that this brings up and the awareness is that there's always going to be some level of contrast. And it doesn't mean we're a bad person or a good person because we have it. Every single person has contrast. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
you're the richest person in the world. It doesn't matter if you're the poorest person in the world. It doesn't matter if you have 8 kids or no kids. It doesn't matter if you're a man or woman. It doesn't matter. We all will have contrast, meaning something that we don't want. But the contrast is not a bad thing. It's a clarifying. It's clarifying. It creates awareness. It creates clarity of what we do want and what we really are in search for and what we do emotionally, mentally, even physically need in our lives. So, but the understanding is that when contrast happens with every human being, the back of the brain, the very back of the brain, yeah, that's where it's like we get into that survival mode and our brain just kind of clenches. It gets into that
Mm,
either fight, I'm going to push against, I'm going to argue with you, I'm going to feel the resistance. Nuh-uh, I'm not, like that kind of fight. I'm not talking about douche, that
right.
some people do that too, but the
But it's just,
fighting,
yeah,
yeah, that
just,
kind of like
yeah, just instant. And it's instant, like this feeling inside of you.
there's absolutely no thinking about it. It is
Right.
instant because that's survival mode. And the same is true is that you could freeze. Sometimes like you might see in a movie, like I'll see someone and now I know it's a movie, but if it's a movie and the person's like just stalling, I'm like, run. But sometimes that's people get into the mode of like,
Yeah.
I'm stuck. I don't know it, like a bunny in the desert. I live in the desert, right? And I see, like, as I'm walking my dog, the bunnies will just literally freeze. I'm like, I can see you, but they're like, you know,
I don't
so,
see buddies in the desert. That's one thing I don't see in my brain.
oh, you see, I just blew your mind. But the other thing is too is the flight. The flight
Mm,
is like, I'm out of here. I can't take this. No more from
hmm
me. Look, and we can even do that a lot with our own selves, where I can't handle this moment. I've got to go smoke. I can't handle this moment. I got to go drink. I got to go sugar.
Yeah.
I got to go do
Right.
something.
Get
Right?
candy. Yeah.
A
Hmm
vice. Yeah, it's some kind of a vice that we think we want because it will make us feel better, but after we do it, consume it, smoke it, drink it, we always feel worse after. So that's
Absolutely.
that's what I define as a vice, but it's a survival mechanism. And so instead of judging ourselves for the survival mode and those parts that got imprinted as we got younger, those choices they made, those decisions that, a
Yeah.
decision at a 6-year-old, life's not fair, right? That
Right. It sticks in you.
it does, and it imprints, right? But we're never at an age where we can't go back and make a new choice or a new decision. And that's when
Absolutely.
we do that, the energy flows. But so the point of the flow factor is that here's what happens. We notice something contrasting, and immediately our brain, because it's wired to do that, will go into either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is like rescuing, trying to make everything okay,
Overcompensating. Yeah.
hypervigilance, right? Like that whole thing. So my example, right? I have a Labradoodle. He's the sweetest dog. He's super loyal. He's crazy because he goes from 0 to 1,000 because he can go into like beast mode and want to like act like a linebacker and tackle me. But he's also just the sweetest thing ever. And he's a great dog. And between where I work in our house, there's a little pathway, and he loves to come in here with me when I'm working. And one day I opened up the door and there was a bunny rabbit right there. So without either one of them thinking about it, negotiating about it, that bunny took off, and my dog, who doesn't do that, took off after the bunny.
Right. Right.
Now, it's not because the dog doesn't love me. It's not because the dog doesn't like where it lives and it wanted to run away. It saw a bunny run, and his natural instinct for survival was to go after it, right? And the same thing, the bunny too. So something happens in our life and we naturally go into that. And
Right.
that's where the flow factor is really important, because us as humans, we have a fifth option, and that's flow. So instead of staying in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, flow is that other option, and compassion is where we find that flow once we've activated that survival mode.
Yeah. I like this idea of flow. Do you so you teach that our energy is constantly shaping our reality. How much of our life experience is actually influenced by our energetic state, which I know probably goes into the flow of your book.
Everything.
Everything.
It's everything, because our energetic state, we have four different bodies that are affected by our energy: our mental body, our emotional body, our actual physical body, and then our energy body. And
Right.
so those are all important, that, when all those are in alignment, then the congruency and the consistency and the speed in which we attract what we want is astounding, right?
Yeah.
If we've got, say, our physical body feeling bad, right? It usually takes down the mental, the emotional, and
Yeah.
energetically you feel. But all you have to do is start with one. It might be a mental body. I am healthy. I am, giving myself, I am healthy. Well-being surrounds me. You're starting to help the mental body, then helps you feel better, which then you go into the emotional body, which then tilts back into having the physical body feeling better, and then of course you
Yeah.
feel good naturally. So it's like starting with one. You can start with the emotional body, clearing out the energy that you feel. Maybe you're angry, you clear out that energy. Now you've got room to go, okay, now what do I want? It affects the mental body, and on and on. So
Right.
it's just important that, we each understand that everything in this universe is energy, including
Right.
our thoughts and our perspective about those things in the universe. And nobody else can control that or choose that for us except for us.
Right. That's so true. Now, I know you're gonna what the answer is gonna be, but I'm curious what you're gonna say. So, can other people's energy affect our ability to stay aligned and in the flow?
Yes and no. So, yes, because when our attention goes to somebody else's behavior and then we make a judgment about it and go, that's not good, I don't like that, that's not appropriate, now we are out of the flow.
Right.
But if someone is, doing what they're doing, and you've stated your opinion, or whatever it is, and they're not changing, or they're being negative, or whatever they are doing, right? When we can focus on having compassion for ourselves for witnessing someone do that, it actually changes the energy. I'll tell you a quick story. Without getting too much into it, but my mom and dad, before my father passed, were married 67 years. And in those 67 years, they were like the Costanzas on Seinfeld. They constantly
I
just
love
bickered.
that.
Try growing up with it, because Estelle and what was his name? Mr. Costanza.
Yeah, exactly.
That was mom and dad. And my dad in his
Wow.
later years actually looked like
Wow.
Jerry Stiller. But yeah, so that's how they would talk. And so it was around, we had shut down for COVID, and I came over to deliver them some food, and I could hear them. Before I even knocked on the door, I could hear them bickering at each other. I could hear it. In my world, it'd be like they're in an argument, they're yelling at each other, but for them, they're just having a conversation.
Exactly.
Right? So they're yelling at each other. No, we're not. We're not. We're talking, right? They're yelling at each other. So I knock on the door. My mom is literally yelling at him as she's opening the door. And I've got this food. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm not staying here very long. So I'm out of here. So again, there's that survival mode of like, I can't be here, right? But I put the food down, and instead of doing what I normally did, which is like, okay, you go in your corner, you go in your corner, you guys stop and try to be the referee and make everything better, the fawner, right?
Right.
I decided to go and sit down at the table and just kind of retracted my energy. And I watched them for a minute, and there's that compassion. I started having compassion that I was witnessing this. And I started having compassion for the younger Christy, the younger self that witnessed that and couldn't leave.
Wow.
And I started having compassion for that little one that wished her parents would be different.
Mm.
And then I started having compassion for the little one for all those times, right? And then I started thinking about, gosh, when I was a little girl, all I wanted was, and I thought about, I'm like, wow, I have created in my life the dream family that I've always wanted with my sons and my husband. And oh wow. And then I started feeling gratitude for my husband, and just started feeling so grateful for what I created. And next thing I know, they stopped arguing. They came over, they both sat at the table. What I thought was going to be a 5-minute hit and run kind of thing, because I can't handle this energy, that energy got shifted and changed with this compassion, with this love. And we had a very meaningful 2.5 hour conversation, longest
Wow.
conversation in depth that I've ever had with my mom and dad. That will go down as one of, in my 55 years on this planet, as one of the most meaningful conversations I have ever had with my parents. And I shifted the energy by bringing in the compassion. They shifted and elevated to that energy, and then there was
Right.
connection, there was flow, right, instead of being in the drama and the chaos and the push against. And that moment for me was, it really taught me something, that it's like, no matter
Yeah.
what's going on outside of you, by bringing in compassion to yourself, and this is for everybody right now, because there's stuff in the
Absolutely.
world that is pulling people off. And I have people in my community going, God, can you talk about what's happening here and there and do peace stuff? And it's like, yeah, but you have to understand, the minute you hear some news you don't like that is
Mm.
contrasting, the minute you think something is not fair, the minute you don't understand and you're confused, the minute you're there, that's any of those life experiences that we have as a human being where we feel unsettled. That's where you get to practice that bringing in the compassion. Invite it in, hug it out, tell yourself, I'm okay. Because do you know that if you actually went back in human history, and I'm not talking just about when I was born in the 70s,
Right.
in
Right.
the 1800s, in the thousands, I mean, this kind of stuff from the human psyche has been and always will be a part of the experience, because it's polarity, where you've got peace and harmony and happiness and connection on one side, and people, love and light. You have the other on the other
Yeah.
side, and it's the balance. And so it's up to us, each of us. If I'm worried about what's going on in the war, and if I'm freaking out about what's happening, and I'm scared, and I'm constantly like, oh my God, are they going to bomb? If I'm in that place, that's what I'm creating in my own life. So I give
Right.
compassion to myself, and then I give compassion to those that lost their lives. I give compassion to those that are confused. I give compassion to those that are grieving and in despair right now. It's like I get to surround energetically, seeing people in a better light, seeing them have a solution. I can't do much as far as some politics and things that have been made, but what I can do is I can keep myself aligned and in a space of compassion and peace and feeling good in the midst of whatever is going on, because I have this life to live here, and that's my
Right.
choice of what I'm focusing on. And as I'm focusing on the good, I see more good.
Absolutely.
You see the good
Absolutely.
and the good nature of people, because people aren't all bad, right? It's like there's good, really good people in the world, and good things, and magic and surprise and delights and what feels like miracles that happen every single day. But if your sonar is on the bad stuff, then that's what you're going to see. But if you're focusing on the good things, the positive things, then you're going to see more of that. I mean, that
Yeah.
really is. So can you be affected by others? Yeah. But can you affect the outcome? Can you influence the outcome? Yeah. Because nobody, unless you give permission, can say the words for you, think the
Right.
thoughts, put the images and pictures, feel the feelings, or take the actions.
Right.
That's where we're
It's
free will.
like I think you said in the beginning, it's being a conscious observer of your life and really like taking radical responsibility for what you're contributing in this moment. And that is, it's a really an amazing reminder that there is a lot of interesting things that are going on right now on the planet, but let's bring in the energy of compassion and send out that energy and let that flow out to others.
Yeah.
And I like how you said, I have my life to live. And that's, my life is just as important as yours. It just, you know what I mean? And I love my family just like you do. And it's like, I'm going to be compassionate for myself and compassionate for those around me. And I really like that. That's a beautiful reminder for like what's going on. And I think it will help maybe some people, if they shift into compassion, get out of that feeling of despair.
If everybody could align with compassion, can learn this as a tool. I've seen that my entire people's lives transform in my community because they're practicing compassion instead of the judgment or beating myself up, or when I make a mistake, or when something happens and I have no control but it's on me. I can give myself compassion instead of beating myself up, because the minute I go into beating myself up, I'm in the drama triangle. I'm stuck in lack. I'm separated from the flow. I don't feel good, and I'm no good to anybody, right? So you give from the saucer, not the cup. You give from the overflow, right? Because most of us are used to try, okay, I got a little bit to give and I don't have, here you go. You can have all the rest of it. And we give away what we don't have, and we feel depleted and we feel overwhelmed. And it's like, okay, compassion, just even for those thoughts, that awareness, that circumstance, that situation, bringing yourself into compassion. Again, feeling that feeling, giving yourself that hug, telling yourself, I've got this, it's okay. All is well, things are working out for me. When you're bringing in that compassion and you're aligned, I'm aligned, now we can relate very differently to each other. It just has this huge entire ripple effect. If more and more people could align with their flow, there wouldn't be any lack. There wouldn't be any competition. There wouldn't be any comparison. There wouldn't be any gossiping. There wouldn't be any mine, yours, up, down, power over, power under. They wouldn't be any of that, because everybody would be aligned with their natural connection to their own source of abundance, prosperity, love, well-being. And we have everything that we need with energy. And that's the keys. Connecting with it first, and then it manifests second.
Absolutely. And it's not even just for those that are on a spiritual path, it's for all human beings. Like I'm thinking about, at my doctor's office, I'm like, I need to get the flow factor. I'm going to give it to all my providers, and just have compassion for yourself, have compassion for others. And I think a lot of the energy would shift out of that, where we get sometimes in the medical industry, people get stuck in.
To let you know, I don't know, I probably didn't know this, but I used to be in the medical industry because I was a pharmaceutical sales rep.
God bless you. God bless you. That's a tough job. She had to get past the gatekeepers, to the providers, to the practice manager. That's what I am. I'm a practice manager, to the God bless you.
Yeah, I would bring a lot of lunches in.
Yes, love our lunches.
A lot of lunch and learns. Yeah.
And there's a lot of dynamics with that. That's a field that you are in, my friend.
I was for a long time, and then I was promoted to a sales training manager, and that's a whole. I wrote about that in my book Quantum Success, where you're applying the 7 essential laws to work and money, and it's lots of stories in there about that. But it is interesting, the dynamics of But the one sure thing that always got me in was either candy or my puppy. I had a little Shih Tzu, and I would bring her in a purse, and the ladies would be like, and all the other reps be like, "Hey," I'm like,
you even just saying that, like, yes, absolutely, yes.
Right? You're like a puppy to brighten my day. Why not? Come on in.
It reminds me of a rep that came in once, and I actually had to ban him from coming back because he was very abusive, and I have a very inappropriate name in my head right now for him. So anyway, but if you bring in a puppy and candy and baked goods, we love you.
Well, that's it.
That's it. We're easy to please. So you actually, you're a channeler also. Mm-hmm. And for really quickly, so you channel a group consciousness known as the Council, which is amazing. How did that connection first begin for you?
Well, it started with the book, right?
That's
And
what I
I,
thought. When
yeah,
as
and
soon as you
I,
said that, I'm like, that's her channeling. Which
yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off for your answer, but amazing that the first person that you went to and you're sitting down and she channeled, and now you channel the council. I was like, I love this.
isn't that funny? Because one of the very first sessions I had with her is she was very psychic and reading and, all this stuff. She goes, "Oh, you're a channeler." And,
Of
and
course,
I didn't
of
know what the heck
course,
she meant. I didn't know what channeling was. So when
of
I was like,
course.
I'm a channeler. So
What does
here I
that
am,
mean?
like 25 years later, actually even longer than that, like 30 something years later. It wasn't that. Well, I've been channeling first person for like where they come through me for 8 years. But there's been like from the
Right,
book.
an evolution.
And
Yeah,
yeah, total evolution from the
yeah,
books transmitting through me to my hands going up to heal someone without being able to put them down,
yeah.
writing, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's been wild to have such a faith and a trust that I'm going to be good, and that this energy can come through to help other
Right.
people, and it's really remarkable. It's such a gift. But how it actually happened was, it was interesting because my development, not only with Melanie but then my earlier teachers of meditation, was channeled
Hmm.
beings as well, or an Ben, and then later it was Abraham Hicks.
I took their light body classes.
Or light, well, light. See, that's the course that when I was like, "What do you do?" And Janine's like, I do light meditation." I'm like, "What?"
That's what started me on my spiritual
Here
journey.
you go. We're light body sisters. There you go.
That's You're the first person I've ever interviewed that's actually brought that up. This is the best day. I love
That's
this. Okay.
awesome. And
I'm
so,
like, wait, two of them.
Orin and Ben are part
Yes.
of the council.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there
I
was
listen to their meditations all the time.
fantastic. So we do meditations like that too. We do series of them. Yeah, it's really remarkable. So I'm grateful that they were my teachers. I got oh my gosh, I have so
Wow.
much more to tell you. I was at a light body teacher training weekend in Oregon, and we were setting a healing space, and I was setting one
Right.
for my sister because she was depressed at the time. And when I got back home, time of death, she committed suicide. Time of death was 8:20 in the morning when we were setting that healing space. So my mom goes,
Wow.
"So you didn't heal her at all?" And I'm like, "No, kind of the opposite. She was very, worn and
Wow.
needed the light, and yeah."
Another touch point for us. My brother committed suicide.
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry,
I'm
Bria, but it's
sorry.
like
I'm
I'm
sorry for
similar.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
that's another
Yeah.
touch point. That's
Yeah.
hmm.
Wow, interesting. God, we
Christy.
have
We
the
were meant to
medical.
meet.
I know, right? That's so funny. Yeah,
Interesting.
it is interesting. But yeah, for me it was always, I had more channeled teachers
Right.
than anything. And so for me it was funny because when I was up in my heyday with training coaches and all
Right.
that, we had what's called an event that we would do once a year called Quantum Success in Business. So all the coaches would come in and we'd do virtual and both, and so we'd have hundreds of people there. And one of the last ones I did, for me, when I put on an event, I'm rehearsing and I'm okay, who's going to talk here and who's going to do what, and
Right.
then we have a big party, and so it was like a lot of planning for 6 months. And I remember getting on the stage and I was like feeling just like I've already done this like a gazillion times in my head. This
Right.
has already happened, right? But it was like now it's real, and I was like, I have Esther envy because Esther Hicks can just come on the
Yes.
stage, go
Right.
hi,
And just go. And
bye,
just go.
and then
Yeah.
go, right? And she's got
Right.
everybody else to set everything else up so she could go on a cruise and enjoy herself and, like show up and then go bye. And so I was like, I have Esther envy. And it was less than a couple years later that I was driving down the freeway. I had to pull over because I had this picture, this image of this being, this council. It was like a round
Wow.
table. It was just like, what? And they were very clear. Like they have a very collective, clear, distinct voice. And they said, create sacred circle of light.
Wow.
Okay, what's that? And then they showed me Zoom, bring people together, do
Right.
healings. Okay, I could
right?
do that. So I offered that to my community, and I had, I think it was like 6, 7 people, women that came in, and during that time, they would come on and go, okay, I had a fight with my husband, or I had to feel, we would do coaching and healing, and we release the energy and kind of the day to day stuff that people need, kind of like, I need to get over this, or that person called me that, and I'm, you know, the things that we get into our
Yes.
craw with, right? So this one woman, her name was Helma. She had transitioned a couple of years ago, but her name was Helma. And when she came in, I couldn't hear them in a collective voice. It was like my kids talking to me, the dog barking, my husband at talking to me. It was like I can't hear. And my consciousness, I swear I thought my body did it, but my awareness kind of went over on the side of the chair,
Wow.
and I could hear them, and they had a very distinct voice and a cadence. And one of the things that's really relevant now more than ever, which kind of makes me laugh, is one of the first things they said to Helma was, don't give your power away to anyone.
Wow.
Don't give your power away to gurus.
Hey, that's very important right now.
Yeah.
That's very important right now.
And that's what they're here to do, is that all of us have the knowledge, the awareness, like the compassion. They're the ones that brought that compassion in, a
Wow.
practical thing that I can do when I'm having a moment as a human that just doesn't feel good. That
Yeah.
sucks. This is scary. I'm afraid. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? Like where you just want to break down, cry. Those moments of being able to bring practical things into play, that's what they're here to do through me. And I'm like,
Right.
why me? But okay, and let's go. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I feel it. I know that I could keep talking to you forever, but we're going to wrap it up with one more question. So, after decades of helping people transform their lives, what do you personally believe is the most powerful truth that people need to remember about their energy and potential?
That we are truly supplied, source, abundant, right? That, money, people, places, things aren't our source. It's the life within, and that life within that's breathing us, that's beating our hearts, like all the things that we don't have to do on a checklist every day, thank God, right? Like digest food. That thing that is that life force, that energy, that flow is for us. It's with us. It wants to collaborate and co-create with us. And when we allow ourselves to be in alignment, we are in the flow, and we are the factor. So like we're in the flow factor, right? We're in the abundance factor. We're in the success factor, because we can choose whatever frequency we want to bring into our vessel. We're an energy receiver, we're an energy container, and we're energy transmitters. And it's up to us as to what we hold and keep and put into our
Yeah,
container.
I love that. Christy, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yay, me too.